So very importantly, you want to go through here, right? And you want to click Darkula at the very least. Okay? Because if you have light mode, we will judge you. Alright. We're going to go make a new project for right now. Alright. We want a Scala project, and we want to use library. We're going to create a new library. Now it's going to freak out for a minute. Alright, now we have finally, thank the Lord, updated to Scala 2.13. So you'll go here and download 2.13.4. And you're going to wait for it to download. You don't need to pick any of those, Adam. The other thing that we have to do is at the top where it says Project SDK, we don't want 1.8, so we want to download JDK here. And we want to be on JDK 15 from Open Oracle JDK. And let that download as well. On that first page, it gave me an option of Marketplace, Junk Eyes. And in the Marketplace, I did Scala. Adam Sugar, we already passed that. You don't need to pick any of them. Alright, so now that we have JDK 15 and Scala 2.13. Yes, I will go through where you can download it after the fact. You see this window right here that I have here? This is the welcome window that when you open it, if you get to the welcome window, you can go plugins. And then there'll be a thing that comes up here that says Marketplace. Otherwise, you can go File, Settings, Plugins, Scala. So, for example, here, Settings, Plugins, and in the Marketplace, you can search for Scala. I already have it installed, so it shows it's installed.
Beautiful, it's already installed. So, now that we've...
No, you need to use JDK 15. Whoever just asked
JDK 15. We are entering the 21st century of Java versions. So, Logan, you skipped a step.
What? What did I skip?
Showing what type of Scala project to create it.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So create project.
That's a very.
I did it. I just didn't say anything about it. You just Scala, idea.
So, idea. And then you go next.
Yeah. And then
so now you can choose the name of your project. Now you can make sure that you have the correct JDK picked and the correct Scala picked. And then boom, once you click finish, it opens up that project.
I'm going to open a new window.
And Realm, that's why we go every step of the way, and Logan should not go on autopilot again.
Always. So in here, you make a new...
File should be top left. Junkie Eyes, like, what OS are you on?
For everyone else, I'm gonna just make a new object so that way everybody understands what's happening, and you'll see a little bit more of IntelliJ. I'm just gonna call it this. This is an object.
And then boom, we have an object. Now, Logan, do you want to show how to make a main function?
Yeah. That is what your Scala version should be. Your Java version should be 1.15.
Junkie Eyes, can you send an Imgur on what you currently see? Oh yeah, if you're still on the new project page, make sure you go to plugins on the left side and add Scala.
Once you create it, it should show up. Guys. Alright, so we're going to make a main function, which is how you run all your programs. So we're going to go def main, and then it's going to realize what it's doing. And you choose the second one, which is the template for the main method, and it'll make it for you.
Okay, Logan, you want a few people want you to create the Scala object again.
Yep, no problem. So we have the source folder over here, the small blue SRC folder. We're gonna right click it, click new, Scala class. And then from there,
and then for now, we'll talk more about the differences between all of these later. But for now, only pick object.
Yeah.
Not case object, not anything else. Just pick object right now.
Yeah. And then name it, press enter, and it'll make it. All right. So we have an object here now, which shows up without this main method. Just shows up like this. And in order to run any of your programs, you need to add a main method. So we do def main, and then click on the template for it, so that way it creates it, so you don't have to remember that args is an array of strings that returns a unit, because that's a pain. All right. Congratulations, you've gotten to IntelliJ. Yeah. Technocut, I'll show it again. No problem. You right-click the source folder, the SRC folder. Then new, Scala class, and then choose object. As far as I'm aware, you will not need to memorize the main function for anything ever. Junk Eyes, yes, you should be using 2.13 for your Scala library.
Realm, this is a completely remote class, so there's no such thing as paper anymore. Paper doesn't exist.
You can just explain the package line that Nazar handed lecture. Yes.
Yeah.
So if I right-click on source, I can go here and I can make a new package, which is basically a fancy name for a folder.
A very fancy
It's
name
a
for
fancy
a
name
folder.
for a folder. Fancy folder. Okay? So now I have a fancy folder here. Actually, can we zoom this in? I think we should. If I can remember how to zoom in, we're going to zoom in. There's a way to do this. That's way too big. Okay, that's definitely bigger. Okay, this should hopefully help people who are having issues seeing. Package. I've made a package here called Fancy Folder. If we right-click it and we make a new package object in here, it'll create an object in the package. So there's two ways to write this. You can write this at wait, actually, hold on. Forgive that. I don't know why I did that. Use Scala class object, and we're just going to call this folder object. This is not a valid name. Folder object. You'll see it says package fancy folder, which is how it finds the file. So because it's inside of the fancy folder, it says this is where it is. So that way it knows where it is. You don't need to press anything besides 64-bit launcher. You don't even need to press 64-bit launcher if you want to just open it by pressing.
It should be the default one, yeah.
And just going IntelliJ.
Yeah, it's just when you're doing the install, the actual install of it, just make sure that you add Scala as a plugin.
Mm-hmm. Alright, folks. There's like a trillion of you here. Like, I'm not even joking. I think this is the most amount of people we've ever had for a review session, which is scary.
I mean,
like, actually scary.
Color me shocked.
I mean, yes, I am shocked. That's why I would like.
I mean, I'm not super shocked.
Okay. Well, congratulations on not being shocked.
You're welcome.
All right. Also, let's go over some important things about review session. We have rules. They can be found by !rule. Rules, not rules. There we go. Billy, what are you confused with? We can help. We are here to help things. We're gonna switch back to.
Okay. Once we once we basically like finish getting this. I want to just make sure a few more people are on the same page for the IntelliJ stuff, and then we can go over the basics that Nazrin went over. Well, M2T2, that's a great thing to be here then, because then you just absorb more information and then you get to learn more. That's great. And I can do a run through of the basics, and we can just pull up her lecture slides. I'll send them to Logan, and we can just go over them. I'm also pretty sure that Jesse's lecture slides are probably identical.
Jacob, where are you sending me them?
Well, I'm first going to just check to see if Jesse's lecture slides are pretty much identical for Wednesday.
It's probably.
Okay,
you can rewatch
yeah, I
the
mean,
live stream later.
they're basically the same, so yeah.
You can rewatch the live stream later, up to 2 weeks. If you click on the profile and you click videos, you'll see the last 2 weeks of our streams. So you'll be able to get 2 weeks back in lectures and in review sessions at any given time. Alright. I have nothing installed because every time I try it, it does other things. Okay. Ilion, I'm going to ask you to go back to the beginning of this review session when I installed IntelliJ and just watch that again. Technocat, the args array string is part of the command line arguments. If you were to pass
AKA, don't worry about it.
Don't worry
about
it.
It's not something you need to learn right now or anytime soon until like 220.
Yeah. Realm Oblivion, we are here every Wednesday from 5 till whenever we feel like it. Basically, if people come
Muffin Man, yeah.
If people come and there's no questions, then we'll just stop. This is a stream for Jesse and Nazrin. It's a conceptual stream. We generally don't answer questions about like homework and that kind of stuff, but we're going to talk about the conceptual stuff that Jesse and Nazrin are talking about at a given time.
Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so we got a few things. First is one person said could not find or load main class first object. So now if you remember when we were showing Logan's stream on IntelliJ, he said the nice blue folder that was listed as SRC and it was blue. If that folder is not blue, you're going to need to make it such. We both have Piazza posts at this point that run you guys through, but if you right click it and then you go to mark directory as and then sources root. So if you see a screen like this, you go to mark directory as sources root, it's the nice blue folder, and then boom, that should fix it on running. So let's run now the IntelliJ is set up. Let's run this back through right from the top. So Logan, let's create a new project, and we're gonna basically do a fake lecture question idea.
Yep. All right.
For both classes, whatever a lecture question constitutes. So like in Nazrin's class, we are calling them lecture questions. I don't know if Jesse's calling them lecture questions in his.
In Jesse's class, we are talking about lecture objectives that are in the project.
Cool. Basically, there's not going to be more than one per lecture. That's the idea, is that they are a question assigned to lecture. The point of them is that they are material based on the lecture that was taught. So that material is going to cover, like, if you understood lecture, you'll be able to do the lecture question. Sugar Bums, you're going to need to just set up the Scala SDK. There should be a blue link on the right. Just click it and it'll run you through the rest. Physics, it means something else is going to be set up that it's not going to like. If you're not in a Scala project, it may not like that. If you don't have the naming scheme correct on stuff, it may also not like that. Okay, so let's just run it back from the top. So let's do a new project. And I want everyone to be paying attention for a second. So we click new project. Notice how on the left side Logan has Scala selected. That is the first step. Then the next step is specifically selecting IDEA. Kid Riches, we're right where you are. So to create a new project, you've already installed the Scala plugins, so you're here. So you hit IDEA and then you go next. So now at this point it's saying that you want to create a project this way. So you have the JDK you want. If you don't have the JDK you want there, So like Logan's on 1.8. That's wrong. We're on 15. So you can now go and click download JDK if you do not have 15 already installed. So you can go download it if you need to. He already has it downloaded, so that's not needed. So then at this point, he can then go to Scala SDK. Now, if there's nothing there, he can click create. And then boom, if he opens this up, you can select something that you have downloaded. If you don't have it downloaded, go download 2.13.4.
So this is now set up correctly, so I can name my project Hello World. Because we're going to do a Hello World. Because we're really good at coming up with ideas. Jacob, are you still doing the package weight lecture question in Nazarine's class?
Yeah, but we're not going to fully run through it because it's 2 lecture questions basically. One's going to be that. So
that's fine. I just wanted to know if you were still doing it.
So let's go from this point. So now we're going to create a package because we want to put our code in somewhere. Now, what we see first is like junk guys. This is also one that pertains to you. Notice how SRC is blue. Now, if your SRC folder is not blue, right click it and then mark it as source is root. So you right click, mark directory as, and then source is root.
Like that.
And then click. Beautiful. Now that we have it here and it's wonderfully set up this way, we can right click it and add a package. So let's keep this at least similar to the idea of the lecture question. So let's call this package lecture. So package, you just type it, you write lecture, and then boom, you now have this nice little fancy folder.
We're gonna make another package too. We're gonna call it tests because we'll use this. We're gonna use this file for our entire semester. Us, Jacob, and I are gonna use this file for the entire semester of review stuff. So we're gonna need a test one at one point. So let's put that in now. So then inside of our lecture one, we want to put files that actually mean something. So we're gonna go new. We're gonna go Scala class, and then in here we can choose different things. Here's what you care about right now. Choose object. You'll know when you shouldn't choose object when we get to that point.
Okay. So now that you have an object, let's call this literally the same thing as what we're going to be needing inside of that. So like this is just their hello world. Now this might be different depending on your actual lecture question. So like for Nazrin's lecture question, she wants first object. Now, Logan, can you rename this object name?
I can. So if you right-click Hello World
here.
Nope.
Let's do it the wrong way first.
Oh, okay. The wrong way. The wrong way is just going here and going, was it first object?
You're just like, I want to call this first object now. But if you notice, once Logan finishes writing this, it's highlighted because IntelliJ doesn't like that. So if you just literally click the rename file, boom, we have a first object.
If you want to do the correct way of renaming it for everybody, you right-click this and go to refactor, then rename.
Yep, and that'll just automatically do both of those.
Right,
quick thing, SusDiet asked the question. I made an account just to ask how to even open IntelliJ. Now, if you've already opened the exe that you've downloaded, if you're on Windows, you can just run it from hitting the Windows button and hitting IntelliJ. It's installed wherever you install it. It'll be run like most applications once you've finished installing it. The other question, which is by Muffin Man, the stream is before both classes. Does this mean we can go to both classes' office hours? Now, to answer that question, I believe we are going to post the links for each other's office hours. Eventually, I don't think we've gotten around to it yet. Logan and I haven't gotten around to it. If you go to another class's office hours, so if you're a Jesse student and you go to a Nazrin student, what you should keep in mind is you can only ask conceptual questions. We are not asking the TAs to be versed on both assignments for both classes. They do have different assignments. So make sure that, like, if you have a code specific question, you are going to your respective class's office hours. But if you're just like, I'm confused on how even Scala runs, or like how an if statement works, like, then yeah, go to either office hours, whatever you have time for. And so yeah, that's that answer. So now that we have this object, we can't do much with it yet. But if we type main and then hit tab, boom, then you have this main function. Now, this nice little triangle button becomes your play button on how you can run your Scala code. And so any code you write inside of main, you can run that directly, and you can put functions outside of the main but inside of first object to call those and use those. And so, okay. Now let's write a simple print statement.
All right. Yeah. Sorry.
So hello world. Now if we just want to run this, easy peasy. Green button, run first object.
All right. Important question that just came up. Do we need to make packages, or can we make objects directly in the source? You can make objects directly in the source, but
We recommend you keep stuff inside of packages
Yeah.
because it keeps everything nice and organized.
yeah, for
So,
legibility
right
sake
now what
and
you're
for other reasons, you put it in a package.
So right now what you just noticed was it took a little bit to run on that first time. Specifically, Scala, unlike Python, is a compiled language. Python is interpreted. So when Python runs, it actually takes the text and turns it into code like that the computer can understand line by line, rather than Scala basically just says, hey, what files do you need? I'm going to then just compile everything into code and just run the function you told me to. So this is the individual running inside of main. But let's say we want to create a function. The green button that's just right next to the main function. Also, the green button that's next to the first object is the same button. They do the same thing. So, Logan, let's add a function that prints hello world instead now. Junkie Eyes, you create a new Scala class, and then once you click that, it'll give you the option for an object.
Yeah,
It seems a little convoluted, but you can do it that way.
Yeah, let me show it again. So if you right-click your package, new Scala class, and in here you'll be able to choose all your different types.
And then you have the option for object.
We'll talk about why you type unit equals later. It's not right now though. Junk Eyes, I just showed it.
Yep. Okay, so now we have this function. So now, Logan, can you zoom this in a little bit?
More?
A little bit more.
Oh my goodness, Jacob, how?
Or just switch to presentation mode.
I forget that exists every time.
Junk Eyes, do you have the Scala plugin? Like, you should see. Is it? Okay, Junk Eyes, we'll address yours in a second. Let's keep working on this. So, let's look at this. So, basically, Junk Eyes, you got to make sure that it's a Scala project and make sure that you have Scala as your plugin installed. So let's look at this. First, let's look in main.
Oh wait.
So
presentation.
yeah, presentation mode. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, I just can't get to
So
the side that I need to get to. You can't get to this.
You don't need to. So the idea is that we have inside of the main function, we're specifically calling a function pretty normally. There's nothing fancy about that. And then Logan's showing you a multi-line comment. And so now let's look at printing. So specifically, let's look at the few bits of printing that are going to be what you guys need to know. So much like Python, a function starting key is def. That's how you clarify that this thing that's following is a function. So def just stands for define. Now you type the name of the actual function, and then at that point, now Logan, what he is showing right now is if he types a little bit slower and stops getting ahead of himself.
I was just gonna type and let you explain it after, but that works too.
Okay, let's not just type a shit ton and then go for it. Okay, but you already hit enter. Stop it, Logan. Okay, so you have now inside of those parentheses, now in printing we left those blank, but inside of complicated math we didn't. So in Python you don't need to type notate, but in Scala you do. So welcome to type notation 101. Whatever variable name you want, colon, that type. Now in Scala, you just need to look up the types if you forget what they are. If you type it wrong, normally IntelliJ might just give you a recommendation to say like, here's how to fix it. So now, okay, int. Now, Logan, what if we wanted to add y as an extra parameter?
We write comma, y.
Comma, and then y.
Let's say y is a string.
Billy, you need to have a Scala library selected. Junkie, is everything working now? You just fucked it up the first time around?
In big letters, he said got it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see the got it. Yeah. I don't have my glasses on. That's
Also,
farther away.
Quick matter.
Blurry.
We are 32 minutes into a stream and we haven't had somebody that I needed to use the ban hammer on yet, and I'm very upset.
Beautiful.
Alright, we continue.
Okay, so yeah, Billy, just make sure you do have a library selected. So that should be Scala 2.13.4, whatever 13 version that's actually your choice, but like we just say go with 13.2. Junkie Ice, you don't listen to the rules. You don't want the ban hammer.
Yeah.
You don't want the ban hammer. So,
Yeah.
okay, 2 parameters. Now, what you noticed is Logan didn't call y also an int. It's now a string. And so the idea is that you can have it whatever parameter you want. You can make as many as you want, just have a comma separating them. Now look at what Logan did. He closed the parentheses and then he did colon. Colon is the type notation in Scala, as you saw in the parameters. So now what that type is saying what is the type that we are returning for the function. So we're typing unit here. But let's say we don't actually want to type unit.
Well, I actually
let's
don't
say
want to type unit.
We don't want to type unit.
No.
Now let's say here's an int. So we want to return an int. And so now that we have that, we do equals because we're saying now this function of these parameters, this variable name, returning type int is going to be equal to, and then we can do braces. Now that we have braces, we put whatever we want for the function inside of here. So Logan, let's do a pretty simple function where we take the integer and we multiply it by x times y's length, because y is a string.
Oh, we can do that too.
Because we can't guarantee that y is an int.
Yeah, I was just... yeah.
So what you can see here is specifically... when you say new Scala class, choose an object for now. Billy, don't click anything else. We'll talk about the differences in another lecture and review sessions. And so, whatchamacallit. So now we have these 2 functions. Now you would notice we don't have a return listed here. But that function actually will return the x times y dot length. Now, Logan, kind sir, can you write return at the beginning of that line? Now, notice how it's grayed out. This is not a syntax error. There is nothing wrong syntactically with writing this. This is still working as a totally normal return statement. Now, here's my biggest recommendation that I will make to all of you. Scala does not require a return statement. Use it anyway. Basically, Scala makes the assumption by the last line of code that can be executed in any situation for that block as the return statement. Now, we're going to show you where that comes into an issue. So now, Logan, remove that return. Now, above that line, write an if statement where if x is greater than 0, and then put inside of it some math that you want to do.
Oh, in here? Yeah.
And you want to return that math. So now Logan says that if x is greater than 0, I want to do some math, and I want to do x plus y dot length instead. But now, let's not make it too complicated, Logan.
I'm going to make it somewhat different. But now
Okay,
IntelliJ
well, I was gonna say
confused.
plus.
Now
So
IntelliJ
now
is confused.
and you're gonna be confused because you're gonna run this and it's always going to return that second part every single time. And you're confused. And you notice that that line at line 16 is grayed out. Now what ends up happening is because there's no else, it says that that last line that can always be executed is line 18. So, but you want to return at line 16, so that's where you need to write the return, which is why I say always write the return, because it's never going to screw up how your code executes. Your return may just be grayed out, and in that situation, you know that you can remove that return. I believe that I finished. Okay. You typed your solution into Notepad before because, okay, is there anything I can do to somehow export to zip and turn it in? Junkie Eyes, you're going to be doing it in IntelliJ. This is part of the first lecture question. I don't want you turning it in from a Notepad submission. I want you turning it in from IntelliJ, because the whole point of lecture questions that aren't worth any points is getting your IntelliJ working. So, like, if you're getting 0 points, anyway, like, okay, so one, if you hit the 0.0, you can get your feedback. Two, I'm asking if anything else I have to do IntelliJ before I export it. I mean, once you type your code and you just export it to zip, that's boom, fine. Sugar bombs, you go to file. Logan can show it on stream.
I'm doing it.
You go to file and then project to zip. He's already read my mind. And yeah, that's how you just export it to zip. That we make it easy. Basically, I have my code handle the big chunk.
Really important thing. Don't save it where it puts it immediately, because that's going to be in your project, and you'll start having many versions of your project in your project.
Yeah, don't do that. Put it in like your downloads folder or somewhere easy to find the zip. Yeah.
Put it here or something like that. Right?
Yeah.
Don't.
So
put it somewhere where you know where it is, but don't put it there.
Yeah. Basically, the next thing. So once you submit to Autograder, Logan, have you made a submission to Autograder yet?
We no. I can make.
Okay, Logan. Go to Autograder. Yeah. Just submit code that's broken.
Yeah.
Just submit code that's broken to Autograder.
I'm gonna submit. It's a pale blue dot, so it's definitely gonna be broken.
Yeah, but that's fine. So Logan's gonna run us through the Autograder submission.
I'm pulling up Autograder on the other monitor.
Technocat, you need to type each individual variable. You can't group type all of them, I don't think, in Scala.
I don't.
So you have to say X is int, Y is int, Z is int. You can't just say all of them are int. It doesn't like it that way.
Your results may vary depending on class, but it'll be roughly the same.
The submission style of submitting is zip. Double we'll talk about in a second.
Yeah,
so Logan, click on. Here's an assignment. Logan can see more assignments than you guys can see, so don't worry about it just yet.
Yeah.
So now, let's submit.
Say that you did not cheat, and then you just click submit.
Yep.
And then you have to go find it, which is always an issue.
So go find it. You grab that zip.
What was it called?
Logan has a extension on his Chrome that dark modes it.
I think it's this. That's not it. Oh, teleworld.
No, just sort. Yeah, it's.
I didn't know what I called it, man. I forgot. Yeah, Dark Reader is the goat.
Yep.
So then we wait, and you can tell we're waiting because
it's doing the spinnies.
It's doing the thing there. Again,
okay,
I have more stuff than you guys have, but just stuff is this.
This feedback may be different. Don't worry about it just yet. But we're going to show you how to look at your feedback. So once this actually gets graded for Logan, what you'll see is that there's going to be a feedback score. So that feedback score, once it's reloaded, well, Logan just smashes Control R a bunch of times.
By the way, as a student, you'll start smashing Control R, and just know that all of the TAs also smash Control R to do this.
M2T2, it's Dark Reader. So you can adjust it. Logan likes that a lot. Okay, so this is taking 3 years.
Well, because
my
Jacob,
student
really
it takes.
It's really confused.
Yeah.
That's why
Oh, it's
I've
horribly
submitted code that
confused.
just very much does not work anywhere close. A method in Scala is like a Python function. Yes.
correct. Yes.
There's just different syntax.
They just need to be inside of objects. They can't
There
just
we
sit in a file.
All right.
So now you see 0.0, and if this is actually out of something more than 0, you're sad, and you're like, why did I get wrong? And you're really confused, and you're like, there's no feedback, this is fucking stupid. Why are Jacob and Logan dicks and not actually giving us information? And you'd be wrong, and then we'd be sad because you didn't bother to click on the link. So if you click on the link,
This is going to be
boom,
really confused.
now you have feedback. Now this feedback is going to be different. Obviously this feedback is garbage right now because Logan submitted garbage that isn't even close to the assignment, so it's going to give him garbage feedback. But what you notice here is that specifically this is at least information. Like this is the idea of this is your feedback. It'll show you what happens. We allow certain stuff to get printed to terminal. In case you're wondering before you try, anything that gets printed inside of your functions, spoiler alert, doesn't get printed to this because we're not going to give you the answer to our test cases. So, before you try that, it's not going to work. We've already locked that stuff down. We're pretty good at building these things. And so, boom, there's your feedback and stuff. And yeah, that's the feedback. So now, Logan, can you pull up Jesse's Wednesday lecture slides, and I'll go through them. So these are going to be Jesse's Wednesday lecture slides as a disclaimer, but they are the Scala Basics, so they're going to be pretty much identical to Nazran's. Ignore the difference in lecture questions if you are in Nazran's thing. Realm Oblivious. We are going to tell you about what the code should do, but we're going to lock the test cases because it's also your responsibility to write test cases.
Not
Part
yet,
of this
but we'll
class
get
is going to
into
be not yet, but like this is it, you will have to write your own tests.
starting Wednesday next
Chain of
week.
Z, as soon as we close this stream, there will be a VOD in Twitch on this page for you to watch. I think actually it might even be now that you can actually rewind
if you go
it.
here and I make sure that this is muted. If you go
And you
here,
go to, like,
and you click
videos.
here and you go videos, there's this.
Yeah, I think it's
and you
even
can
the one
watch
that
plus
we've just
video.
started, so you could even start it back right now.
Don't worry about test cases. You will know what they are whether you're in Nazarens or Jesse's class, but you won't.
Test cases
don't worry
haven't
about
been touched for either class yet. Don't worry
Yeah.
about it.
Wednesday
So,
next week. Wednesday next week.
next slide, let's not even confuse them with a lecture question. Okay,
So this is what we just
Scala
wrote.
Basics. So we just talked about this a little bit. Logan, can you full screen it for me? Because I would appreciate that.
Yes, if I can remember how to full screen. I know how to full screen. I'm dumb.
F11?
I know.
Okay, so what you're going to notice here is a few things. So, Priest and K1, because you're given a problem. You are given a problem, you are told what your code needs to do, and you need to make a solution for it. You're told what the parameters will be, so like you're told you're giving an integer, but you're not necessarily told that like what integer you're given. Like let's say the shipping question that Nazran has, you're told you're given an integer or a double, which to address a double quickly, a double is just a number that has a decimal place with it. You guys don't need to know more than that at the moment. There's a more detailed answer. I'm not giving it to you yet. So basically the idea is, oh, that was your mouse. I was confused. Your mouse was over my video right above my bed and I was like, is there a hole in my wall? And I was super confused because I'm like, this is a new wall. This is a new wall that's just got put up. And I was like, why is... Okay. Yes, like a float in Python. And so we're going to tell you like, hey, you get a double, but we're not going to tell you what double you get, like in our test cases, because you're like, you have to solve a problem. So let's talk about the Scala Basics. So first, let's look here. Now, what you notice is there's a few things. First is package. Now, package is basically Scala's notation to say, this is the folder that I'm sitting in. So this is just saying that it's inside of this folder. So easy enough. That's pretty easy. So then you're saying object. Yeah, package is just where the object, where the file is located. Yeah. So now you have object. Now object is going to be the type that you guys are going to use a lot because objects, when you run your code through that main function, it means that that code just automatically gets instantiated and runs from that main function. So you have a main function, the args, don't worry about it too much. Later things, it's command line stuff, don't worry about it. So let's go on to the next slide. So this is Jesse talking about this. This is Jesse talking about this. Print statement, we already showed a print statement. So now here's something a little bit more confusing. So now as you notice, there's another function here. Now if you remember from when we were showing IntelliJ, we had the function below the main function. Now because Scala is compiled, it can be either, it handles it that way. It doesn't need to be above or below, it doesn't matter wherever you reference it, it figures it out. It's magical like that. So you can put them wherever they make sense for you. So now we can see here, multiply by 2. Multiply by 2 is specifically the name of the function that we have denoted, and we've given it a parameter of type double, which is an input. We have also said, if you notice at the end of the line, that we've said that the return type is double, which means it takes in one double and it puts out one double. So, easy enough on that part, and we're just taking the input and multiplying it by 2. Kind of what the function says. Also a recommendation, if you write your own functions, make sure that the function name is actually like, I don't know, recognizable and useful to the problem that you're doing. If you call something a multiply by 2, don't make it something that squares it inside. Like, that's just common sense, but please don't. So now, let's go on to the next slide. Yeah, this is just the input stuff that we were talking about. Conditionals. So here's some conditional stuff. So obviously, this is a little bit more code. But as you keep noticing, we're kind of running our initial stuff inside of the main function. We'll talk about how to run other stuff in other points. But if you want a nice green button, somewhere eventually in your code, you will need an object with a main function if you want a nice green button that is not for your test cases. So, as you know, we have a function called compute size. Now, I want you guys to look at that first line for compute size, and I want everyone to spam chat what is the specific return type for compute size. So for the lecture question, we would define our method appropriately within the object and simply submit that as a zip. Rafi, that is correct. Okay.
Repetiltian, I will talk about like other stuff like League and that kind of stuff at another time. Like if we have less questions at any given point, Jacob and I will both do the same. We've had review streams that have gone on for an hour.
Okay, so we have
computer parts. But right now, while there's questions, we're not going to talk about it. So. Okay.
One answer for double, a bunch for string. Yep. Okay. So I think we're just a little delayed on the stream, which is fine. So yeah, it's a string. So specifically, the parameter is type double. But if we look outside of the parentheses, we see, well, not the main, the compute size. Compute size has a string as its return type. So now we say equals and we do some stuff inside. Now what we see is, here's the if statements. Here are conditionals. Now conditionals are set up pretty normal for if you're used to Java. Same with Python, but instead of a colon and indents, you have to use just braces. One line if else's. I don't know if I've really ever gotten one-liners for if else's in Python working.
No, in Scala. I think you can do an if without
it's just
the brackets,
you do it without the braces. It's just if this thing, and then you say.
Just be careful. Test it on your own. Be careful. I don't want to confuse more people.
Just play around with it
than needed. I just labeled this here for everybody. So this piece right here, this is whatever type you're returning, and anything in these parentheses, those are your parameters.
Yep. And so the idea is that like the if statement's pretty simple, as you can see. Things to note, compared to Python, you have to use braces around your actual if blocks. instead of a colon and indentation. And also in Python, it's elif. In Scala, you have to spell out the extra few letters. I'm sorry. You have to write else if. Now, the specific syntax on whether you have the else if in a new line after that close brace or in the same line, that's your choice. It doesn't matter. Okay. And then
Rafi,
yeah. Okay. So
you ready for the answer to your question? It's right there.
Yeah. So like it's the same syntax as Java, where you're using the I call them the alligators. I don't actually know the actual name for them. But it's just the sideway carrots.
Yeah, the less than greater sign and then an equal.
Yep.
Same kind of vibe we have there. Tabbing does not matter in Scala, but if you come to us with poorly tabbed code, we will murder you.
Yeah, we will be very sad. You might think that's an empty
threat, but it's not. Hold up. I
will find a way to just like
Jacob, now I have to find the picture.
Which picture?
You know what picture it is. You might not know what it is.
I'll know it when I see it, yeah. Yeah, okay.
If your code looks like this.
Where?
Alright, if your code looks like this.
Just don't do this.
Just don't do this.
Yeah, like you look at this. This is terrible. Don't do that.
Don't do this.
Don't do that. Don't. No.
Just don't do that.
Don't.
Okay. Rafi has an important question. If you type if x equal 30 and x is underlined red saying missing parameter type, you are wrong. Would you like to know why you're wrong? There's two versions of, well, there's actually three versions of equals, but there's two versions you care about. There's equals, and then there's equals.
Let's not get into that yet, Logan.
If you're in an if, use this. If you're assigning, like making a variable something, use that.
Yeah, one's an assign, that's the single equals, and then the other one is a Boolean equals.
Oh, you meant equals.
X needs to be defined. Yeah. So if you haven't used X yet, if X would need to be in your parameter. So like in compute size, we couldn't do that conditional without input being a parameter. And if input is not a parameter and it's just a variable inside of the function, you need to say var x equals 2, and then you can at that point set it to that. Okay, so good question that I'm actually willing to entertain at this point. Unit. What is unit as a return type? The answer is the easy answer is if you have unit as a return type, it means you're saying you're not returning anything. But here's the thing, you can actually write a return statement and then put something in there, and it's not going to throw an error in unit. It's just going to say you're not actually looking at anything. So the actual answer is unit is a return type that tells the function when you return, ignore anything you're actually returning. So you can't assign anything that gets returned as a variable. It doesn't do anything. Basically, yes, unit is like void in C. Any is something more confusing.
We'll get to it later.
If you have, well, no, we kind of need to address it now.
Okay.
Any means that you have multiple areas where you're returning something, but they're different types. So don't. If you have any, don't actually return any. Don't let your code overwrite to return any. Switch it so that you have it return the same type every single time. Now, if you have a conditional where it's returning something, and then you have somewhere else that isn't returning anything at all, that's going to say any because you have one section that's return type unit, and you have one section that's return type like whatever you're actually returning inside of the conditional. So make sure that you have the same return type for everything. You should never be using any in this class. In this class, at least. So let's go on to the next thing. Okay, what is this saying? Oh, you have your carrots switched. It should be if you want to say greater than or equal to, you have to English-wise, you put the greater than, and then you say equal.
To.
So the next question, which is char question mark. So I'm assuming that the question is, what is char? Char is specifically a single character. A string is actually, I'm just going to blow your mind real quick. A string is not actually a variable type. It's a list of characters. All of languages are just a random list of characters that you actually can like understand.
That's my favorite 220
Boom.
thing to like throw at people.
Mind blown.
Is that strings aren't actually strings; they're just lists of characters. It's my favorite.
They're
thing.
lists of characters. So, yeah, you don't need characters. Yeah, a group of characters is a string. Yep. But we like to say list or array. Okay, so next actual like section.
I don't think there's this.
There's more.
We went it through.
Is there? Oh, okay. That's the end.
Yep.
Midi. Amazing.
Also, Jesse uses light mode, so we shame him as well, just so you're aware.
We do shame Jesse for using light
Jesse
mode.
For
so
his light mode, so don't worry.
Don't think that we treat you any differently than one of our professors.
Yeah.
Because we shame him too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Int
So
and int for this language. Capitalization wise,
in
use lowercase.
Lowercase I is not actually a type in this. It's only the uppercase I.
It'll correct you, I think, if you write if you just write int. Like. Oh no, it won't correct you. That's stupid.
It won't correct you. It'll get sad and be like, this doesn't work.
It should correct you, but
actually no.
Yeah.
Logan, try typing lowercase int and then just type like clicking somewhere else.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't help you
create.
anyway.
Yeah. It doesn't like
really
it. It basically just says create class. Yeah.
Yeah, no, don't worry. It just really doesn't have. Just do a capital I.
Repetition. I'm not answering that. That's a later unit. I am not gonna try to confuse people who are just figuring out how to run things.
2 weeks away.
Well, yeah. It's this unit, but it's like it's like 2 weeks away.
Don't worry
I'm not going near that.
It's a scary time. Does it matter how many packages we have when submitting a lecture question to AutoLab? No.
It does not.
Make sure you have the right ones though.
That is, but also, side note, if you have a bunch of packages in there, make sure the code actually runs in your IntelliJ before you submit it. Because let's say your lecture question, so like for Nazrin's class, you have code in package called lecture 2. So you have code in there that works. But let's say you have a random package called package fancy funk from when you were doing work during this review session, and you type some code in there that doesn't work whatsoever. Now, in the case of our class, I programmed our Autograder to actually like circumvent that issue. But if you have an issue in there, what happens is it may break Autograder if you have code somewhere else that doesn't compile.
Yusuf, look at the screen right now.
Okay, file, export, project to zip file, save it somewhere where you recognize where it is, and then you can just click the check mark box, submit, and it'll just tell you which zip file do you want to upload.
Yep.
And you just click it.
Thy Muffin Man. We're not going to talk about that yet. We'll talk about it soon, but not yet. Probably
not yet.
Come back next week.
Next week.
We'll
find out next week. Find out next week.
Next
Logan and Jacob tackle Scala with you guys.
Next week's gonna be unit testing, always a fun thing, and more advanced basic questions. And then we're gonna throw an algorithm at you. So Jared,
now
we have to bring up genetic algorithm right now, beginning of the semester.
QROTY, it's out of 0 points, so click on the feedback and see what your feedback is.
Are you gonna have the same homework in both classes? No, except for genetic algorithm.
Yeah, genetic algorithm, I believe, is in both classes.
Yes. Jesse told us the other day genetic algorithm is staying because we won't let it go.
Genetic algorithm, best homework.
Also, Jacob, important part, we might get towers back this semester.
QROTY, what else does it say? Wait, don't worry. We're just holding up the entire stream, waiting to hear what the rest of your
It's okay.
your feedback on
It's okay.
Autolab is.
Jacob, the important part that you need to know is there is a possibility that Towers is making a return this semester.
Okay, so error while grading functionality. QRTY, what I'd say is that typically means that there is an error. Now, if there's no other feedback that you're getting, it means that it's an error in your code specifically. So what I would say is add a main method, like how we showed you where you just type main and then hit tab. And then, yeah, Logan's just going to re-show you. So you just inside of your first object, Logan is just going to delete that and recreate a new main.
I'm going to delete it? Okay, I was just highlighting it.
Main and then enter, and then boom, there's a main function, and then just call the function that you want, and
I don't know who made
and then
this.
just make sure your function runs. If your function doesn't run, it's not going to run inside of my Autograder.
Yo, I don't know who made this, but
The unofficial
use
guide.
it.
Oh my god, this is actually
use
fantastic job, Repetition.
Yo, Repetition. I'm straight up gonna steal this and put this at the bottom of the Twitch channel.
QRTY, do you know how to use Twitch? Like, can you whisper to me what your actual like email is?
Just do /W and then whatever it is.
Yeah, /W and then type Hebrew hexadecimal. It should autofill, and then you can whisper me your UB email, and I can look at it.
Yeah, you can do my name as well. You can do CSE review session if that works as well.
Mango Cat, Mac is weird. You have to like highlight your taskbar, and then it should like it has a slightly different setting set up. This is fantastic. Beautiful. Let's pull up Twitch. Where's the whispers? Do I have a whispers yet? I do not have a whispers yet.
All right. Repetition. Congratulations, you're now below the channel in the rules panel. Is Scala a new language? No.
It's not that new. It's existed for a bit.
All you know is from 115, congratulations. That's how the course is designed for. You're fine. Relax.
Yeah, Elite. We that's also why we run this review session is like here's how all of this works. Like here's how we're gonna run it. Like boom, here you go. Okay.
Repetition. And just everybody in general for a very quick but serious talk. I see you put a Discord link in the chat. I'm not going to delete it. I don't really care. But importantly, obviously we can't see into your Discords and stuff, but make sure you guys are not cheating in there because we will catch you. Be really careful about that kind of stuff.
I don't know how much you guys know about stuff, but we have in Autolab specifically software that monitors different code. And can specifically look at the difference between stuff and... Oh, UJ's in there with you? Oh, fun.
I'm not sure. Responsible.
UJ is not a 116 TA, so...
Yeah, regardless,
okay, but our point
general...
is that specifically we have code that checks your guys' code and can compare it. Now, it compares it a lot more in detail than variable names. So even if you guys are like, oh, we're going to big brain this and use different variable names, they won't catch us. We will, because it doesn't look at variable names. It looks at how it actually runs and how the code runs. It was made by Stanford. They're pretty smart people, smarter than us. And so the idea is that it can handle that stuff. I don't see the whisper. Am I blind?
Probably.
Oh, there it is. There it is. No. QRTY. You don't need to email me. If you've submitted to Autograder, I can see it on Autograder. Yeah, Hebrew Hexagon. I see it.
By the way, Repetition. Sure, I'd love to join the Discord server, but on the other hand, I'm in a lot of Discord servers, as you can
Okay,
see
so
via the picture.
Thy Muffin Man, we don't recommend you looking at Stack Overflow for any of your resources, because specifically sometimes they can do it wrong, or you might be handling things wrong. So my recommendation is use the Scala documentation. Now, okay, what does error while grading
just answered
functionality
it.
mean? So, okay, you did.
While you talk, I just type.
Mhm.
Yeah, Stack Overflow is a scary place, and also in the wise words of Ethan Blanton, who none of you probably know yet, you know, people go on to Stack Overflow for answers, but people that know the answers generally don't go on to Stack Overflow. So you get people that you think know the answers that are answering your questions on Stack Overflow, and not the people you actually want to answer your questions. So don't go on to Stack Overflow.
So, yeah, one thing that was just addressed in my DMs that I looked at Autolab stuff for was specifically if you have a function and Jesse or Nazarene is like, hey, the return type needs to be string, or the return type needs to be int or double. Make sure that you double check your code to make sure that that return type is correct. Because if you get error while grading functionality, like let's say I'm looking for a function that takes the double and returns a double, but you give me a function that takes a double with that name, but it returns unit, that doesn't do anything for me. Print, oh yeah, that's the big thing. Print ln does not return that. It prints it to terminal. That's a big thing we forgot to mention in the basic. Rafik Khan, no, you cannot DM us a screenshot of your finished LQ code. What you can do is you can make Piazza posts if you can't figure it out. But what I would say is make sure that you check your return types, make sure you check your parameter types, and if it runs and runs correctly, like make sure you're not using print to return to, like return from the function. Make sure you actually return to return from the function. So, Technocat, if you are in a Discord and that Discord starts partaking in shady stuff. Now, obviously, I know the thing, snitches get stitches, all that type of deal. The easiest thing you can do is dip, get out. Like, don't be in there. If they start doing shady stuff, like, I'm not, like, yes, technically, as a TA, as a head TA, I am supposed to say, you should go report that to your TAs and your professors and tell them about the Discord that's cheating and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to ask that of you because I wouldn't have wanted to do that as a student myself. But the best way to keep yourself out of harm's way is leave the Discord immediately. Try to take, and if you can, try to keep note of when you left the Discord. No, we do not give you bonus points if you snitch. You do not get bonus points if you snitch.
No.
You guys are some. Wow. You get.
Y'all going there already? Jeez, bro. Like what?
You're,
3 days in?
y'all let me get bonus points. I'll snitch on anyone you want. Like, no, we're not.
It's the bug bounty circle. It's the bug bounty circle. IBY.
Realm.
Okay, wait, hold up. Let's answer IBY's question first because it's actually more important. IBY. Look here. Don't use this button. Don't use that button. It's
that
a dumb
only
button.
runs the previous one. That only uses the previous thing that you ran. So if you haven't run anything yet, it's gonna be grayed out. So use the one that's next to main.
Like that.
Yeah, so just use the one that's next to main. Now, what if you didn't know when they started doing AI violations? Well, in that case, things get a little bit trickier. If you, like, okay, here's the deal. If the Discord gets caught for, like, the act of the messages being sent gets caught, then, like, and we trace it back to Discord. So think about it this way. Let's say 2 people submitted code that was similar, and upon us investigating them for AI, because we see that their code is similar, we get it out of them that they were in a Discord. Well, at that point, we can see that we're going to get access to that Discord, and we're going to ask for, like, everyone who's in there. At that point, then we can talk and look at the Discord and stuff and the logs in the Discord to basically see, like, okay, like, How far reaching is this? Like, were you partaking? That type of deal. The easiest thing to see is just be like, get yourself out as soon as you see anything that's AI violations. Like, don't stick around in there. And like, I mean, I would even say like that's why I personally try to lean away from the really, really big discords. Like Jesse has a Discord that he links on his homepage. That's actually the only class Discord that I ever joined, and I'm still in there because that's what I entered when I was in 116. Nazarene people, feel free to join that Discord if you want to. There's a bunch of people in there. There's Jesse in there. There's TAs in there. Like sometimes some of the Jesse TAs run office hours in there. Like that is going to be a Discord that, like, if there's an AI violation that happens in there, you will be safe, because unless if you were the one actually committing the AI violation, because us as TAs can see everything that's happening in there. So like, we're gonna know if you participated in, or not in that. But like, if you're in Realm Oblivion, just go to CSE116.com. First, it's the Discord that's linked right there.
Yeah. Also, importantly, we're not trying to say don't like talk with other people about stuff.
Yeah, talk with your friends, but like encourage your Discord to like follow the rules. Because also, like, if you cheat your way into a degree, one, did you learn anything? That's a rhetorical question, because you know the answer is no. If you had to cheat your way through an assignment, means you didn't understand that assignment. Now, if you don't understand the assignment, but you cheated your way through your entire degree, is your degree really worth something? So you're telling me that you just paid probably $80,000 to more dollars for a degree that is worth jack shit? Like, is that really worth it? And then you get in the situation that you're like, well, if you have a bunch of people that are cheating, like, when is the point that employers start looking at UB and they say, well, is anyone with a UB/CS degree actually worth it? Are their degrees actually real degrees, or is everyone just cheating there? And that's why we need to enforce AI. That's why we enforce these rules, is because if you let people who cheat run wild and they never actually learn, our degrees aren't worth crap. And a bunch of you are here, whether that's the right reason or not, a bunch of you are here because of that shiny price tag that comes with a CS degree. Now, I don't condone that. You should want to be here. You should want to like actually write these codes and stuff, because it's fun stuff. It's really cool stuff. But if you're here because of the shiny price tag, like, go for it, whatever. But like, that shiny price tag isn't worth crap if you can't pass a coding test for that internship or that full-time job or that type of stuff. So like, don't. Yeah, Realm, there's a few companies we are still blacklisted from because there were some grad students who thought it would be hilarious to take a test all together for the same company, and that company caught them, and now UB can't do anything with Bloomberg anymore.
I don't think it was.
They
was
throw
it
out. It's Bloomberg, and a few other places as well.
Yeah, no, I know about the one that's in San Francisco.
Yeah, basically, Bloomberg, if they see UB on your resume, they throw it out because of other people who's fucked up. So don't.
Fuck that up. Also, important thing, very unrelated. Jacob used to be able to see my screen the whole time, regardless of what OBS was on. Now we can only see what you guys see. So he couldn't see me just scrolling through Twitter and finding this beautiful thing that I've.
I mean, I know that he's going through. If his eyes do a little thing where it just starts going like, and he starts scrolling with his eyes, Jacob, and that's when he's on Twitter.
But look.
Yeah, I can see him.
This is the most beautiful things.
There's something.
Microsoft, as far as I know, has not blacklisted us.
I don't think Microsoft's blacklisted. A lot of those big companies though are just hard to get into. Like,
Jacob's applied to Amazon twice and hasn't gotten in either time.
I've applied to Amazon 3 times, buddy.
Okay, Jacob's applied to Amazon 3 times.
So throwback. First time I got the coding exam, but I didn't pass the coding exam. Second time I passed the coding exam, but went into the interview and absolutely bombed the interview. Third time, I passed the coding exam, I got into the interview, and then I actually did kind of well in the interview, but then they emailed me and they were like, we're not pursuing you and we can't tell you anything about it. And that's when I decided I'm not applying to Amazon anymore, because they don't actually give you any real feedback. But yes, you can apply to Amazon, you can apply to Microsoft, you can apply to Google, all these big places, but also like you can apply to the smaller places. You can like UB's career fairs, go to them. Ooh, biggest thing. Go to UB's. This is turning into like Logan and Jacob's like
This normally
recommendations
happens
for you.
like week
This is
13
normally
in the
okay. You guys are gonna
semester.
see this anyway. This is how it goes anyway. This is where it turns into Logan and Jacob's recommendations. Go to
Oh.
UB career fairs, like the spring career fair. I don't care if you're not looking for an actual job this summer, like just yet, but like go to the career fair. Like go see who's there. Sign up for one-on-ones. Like obviously it's online. It's not as easy to do. There's not as many people there, but like go to those career fairs, like sign up, talk with people one-on-one, see what internships they have. Some companies may not hire freshmen, but it's like whatever, like just talk to them anyway. Like they're there and they're willing to talk to you. Like understand what they're looking for so then you can teach yourself stuff over the summer that they might want from you. Do you need personal projects? Yes and no. Companies' number one thing they love on your resume are projects you've done outside of schoolwork. Now, that being said, schoolwork projects like the ones you're going to do in 116 and ones you'll do in 220, 250, and a bunch of other classes are really good on a resume. They're good. But companies will also ask you, what have you done outside of class? Because they want to see an interest outside of CS, like your actual program itself, like the interest to just program. So like working on personal projects, like if you don't have, like, here's the thing, like stay busy. Like, here's the idea. Like, if you don't get research or you don't get an internship this upcoming summer, don't just like, as much as it really is fun to just sit on your butt and play video games the entire summer, like work on a personal project as well. Like take a few hours out of the day, like, and just write a personal project. Some problem you have in life that's bothered you. It's a thorn in your side. Come up with a solutions code for it. Like, and write it, have it on GitHub, have it as a public repo, and like have it on your resume.
All right, hold up. We need to take an important break for a moment. If you guys have questions while Jacob and I are talking about whatever we end up talking
Please
about,
interrupt us.
Please interrupt us. We will stop. How many projects do you have for 116? It depends on the class.
Yeah.
Nazman's class has more than Jesse's class.
It's in the syllabus.
Yeah, go look at your syllabus. Trying to buy 30.
Wait, you have more than us?
No, I think you have more than us. Which is what I said.
We have 4.
Oh, then we have more.
Yeah, we have 4 homeworks.
I thought you were on like the 8 gang that we were on last semester. Okay, we're on 6.
Expansions got pulled.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Hey,
because we're doing an expansion / additional homework for a bonus, but we're only doing the 4 main homeworks.
But here's the important part: we might have towers.
You might have towers, yeah.
That's just the most important thing.
Towers is fun.
Towers is one of the best. Also, priest, just like get in the habit of like doing your work when you get to your work, and don't play League all the time.
Oh, Elite, you'll find out what towers is if you're in Jesse's class, but it's fun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, then you can't get access to Nazarine's slides. No, you want to know what towers is, we're just not going to ruin the fun. Towers was done in the semester.
Actually, if there's anything you should be asking what homework is, you should be asking what genetic algorithm is. So
if you want to go, no,
ask me.
Jacob, don't
Snowball
if you
this.
want to find out what genetic algorithm is,
I dare you.
Go look at the Wikipedia page, and then get scared and come back and cry.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, that's what I was gonna tell them. What happened to physics engine? It depends on which class you're in. Nazman's class still has physics engine.
Yep, Jesse does not.
Is what required?
If it's genetic algorithm, yes.
Oh yeah, it's required. Oh, well, I mean, okay. The homeworks all apply towards your grade. So, like, if you want an A, yeah, it's required. If you don't want an A, then maybe genetic algorithm is the one that you're saying, well, I'm not going for the A. What year? I mean, physics engine is still in Nazarene, so it hasn't died yet. Jesse's just playing around with some new homeworks.
Yep.
He's doing what he normally does, which is change the entire course 30 minutes before it starts and figure out new homeworks for it. It's a pretty fun thing. Repetition A minus. I mean, depends on. So for Nazaryn's class, it's a 10-point hit if you don't do genetic algorithm whatsoever. So that would knock you to a 90, which I believe is an A minus. You need def main in all of your Scala projects. You don't technically need def main for anything because I'm not calling def main. Def main is for your purpose to run object code.
Why is Scala so underrated compared to Python and Java? That's a long
because it doesn't really okay, it fits more of an so here's the question that I like this form of the question rather than the way students normally ask me this, because students will normally be like, why the fuck do we use Scala? Nobody uses Scala. Okay, by the way, I'm sorry if anyone has a problem with me being profane. We're profane in this. It just, please don't take any offense to it. We don't mean it. It's just we're naturally profane in our language in these review sessions. Yeah, sorry in advance. But basically, people will be like, well, why do we use this language? Nobody uses it. Nobody looks for it. And the answer is because it's a good educational tool. Because
Also,
Scala is
it's specifically for
seen anyone.
data pipelines.
Oh, okay. That actually makes sense.
There are actually some places in which Scala does work really, really well. It's not a huge amount of them, but there's some. But the language of Scala itself has so many different parts to it that it will teach you about every other language. What language do I use in coding interviews? Both of us use Python.
Logan, you didn't even let us finish the answering the question. You derailed us.
Scala's good for education. That's all you need to know. Don't worry about it.
Okay. The point is that it's a mix between Python and Java. Python is much simpler to learn, but it basically circumvents a lot of the basic things in languages that you should know, like typing, like requiring the use of strong typing. Like we don't teach object-oriented programming in Python. It's a lot easier to teach it in a Java-based language. And so rather than having you guys learn Java, which, by the way, used to be how 1.16 was run. 1.16 used to be run using Java or C++, which was a lot harder of a class. Scala is the much more, it's more like a dipping your toe into the water of like object-oriented programming and all of that, like rat's nest of everything. And so like it's a lot simpler and we scare off a lot less students doing it this way. So yeah. The answer to what language did you use in coding interviews? So far, my answer is everything but Scala that I have learned. I specifically, to go through the list, C, C++, Java, Python. Those are my main ones. I have more on my list, but like those are my main ones that like I have on my resume because I'm proficient in. I don't put something on my resume. Here's also the thing. Don't put a language on your resume that you don't actually feel comfortable programming in. If you can't sit down at a keyboard and program in that language, like, don't put it on your resume. Because they might ask you to do it, and then if they ask you to do it, and then you look like an idiot doing it, you've only made yourself look like an idiot, so, like, don't put it on your resume if you can't actually program in it. But yeah, I've had to, in my programming interviews, like, program in all the languages that I put on my resume. Logan, go.
What have I?
Yeah.
Confusingly. I've done mostly Python and some JavaScript, but there's differences between a lot of things that Jacob interviews for and I interview for. Both of us have very different ways that we're going in our lives, so I don't generally touch object-oriented languages in everything that I do. I write
basically besides the beards and the overall like headset and how we sound and everything, like we may look and feel like very similar people, but our programming styles are mirror images of each other.
Yeah. When do you learn C and C++? You learn C in 220 and you learn C++ by teaching when you teach it to yourself in 331.
Okay, that's also a thing to mention. In 1.16, we give you this week of basics for Scala, and in 220, you get 1 week for basics of C. Everywhere else, you're expected to teach yourself. So, Logan, would you like to link our favorite Scala documentation website with the API current?
What? Sorry, I zoned off. What's
Okay,
up?
Logan was looking at Twitter.
No, I was
handle it.
actually. Well, yes, but I was thinking Twitter because somebody sent me something. Like an important thing.
Haha, Logan looking at Twitter, not paying attention. Everyone shame Logan.
Hold up, I get it. I'll throw the ban hammer down on me.
Ah, yes, shame Logan. Okay, so that's the Scala documentation website. By the way, that's an approved resource. Any code you get from the Scala documentation website, if it starts with scala-lang.org/API/current, boom, you can get any code you want from that. Like anything you want to use from that. It's also, I'd argue, so now that I've been learning Go for one of my classes, I would argue it's the second best documentation that exists on the internet. Go being the first at this point. But Scala Docs has some of the best documentation on like the everything. And so like, oh yeah, if you want to learn Java, you got to teach it to yourself. Would you recommend Geeks for Geeks as an
No.
official class resource? No. As a under the table wink wink nudge nudge that type of deal, like only like 50% of the time. But that's the problem. Like 50% of the time, it's completely broken. It's not actually good. They don't actually talk about the stuff that they need to. They just kind of show you code that works and you just kind of implement it yourself, but you don't actually understand what it's looking for. And so like half of the time they have really good examples. And sometimes you may actually see Logan and I link a Geeks for Geeks for something. Like the Geeks for Geeks on specifically merge sort is
Really
actually
good.
a really good Geeks for Geeks.
It's actually
but
the
like
second
sometimes
best merge sort resource.
the first being a YouTube video, specifically, what is it? It's the Ukrainian dancers. I
Yeah,
can't
something
remember
like
because there's
that.
like, okay,
We'll get
you'll
into it.
find it later. That's a later review session. There's a whole dancing squad of sorts of different like different like Eastern European country like dances. Like it's really funny and awesome. But basically, don't use Geeks for Geeks most of the time, especially with Scala documentations being so good. And also, I know one of you or multiple of you are going to be like, well, Alvin Alexander is this fantastic
Oh
resource that I
no.
found. And you're going to talk about how like you're a genius and how you found this amazing revolutionary site. It's not. It's not that good. Use the Scala documentation. Like the Scala documentations like are great. Like they have a lot. Assassin, 2 hours at max. If you guys stop asking us questions and we run out of things to talk about, we'll cut it early, but it runs 2 hours at max. So, oh yeah, you got that. You already had a teacher show it to you? Yeah, that's great. So yeah, basically don't Geeks for Geeks, don't use it. Like until you actually know the language and you just need to remind yourself of like what some syntax is, like don't use Geeks for Geeks. Like don't use Geeks for Geeks in this class. Biggest advice for us young CSE majors. The biggest advice, especially with this being an online class, is something that can be done asynchronously looks really nice. Like, you're looking at it and you're like, I can just watch the recordings. I don't need to keep up with it during the time. I'll just watch it over the weekends.
You won't.
Or I'll watch it Friday night.
You won't.
You won't.
You won't.
You won't. I'm just going to tell you this to you now. You're not. You tell yourself you're going to. Every single time you tell yourself you're going to. You're like, I'm going to do it this time. Like, I'm going to stay up to date on this time. You're not. Go to the live lecture. Carve out the time. I don't care if you're in a different time zone. Like, change your sleep schedule to be on the Eastern wing. Like, go to live lecture. It's going to make your life easier. And stay up to date on the work. If, like, sometimes Jesse has, like, loose deadlines. For anyone who's in Jesse's class, Jesse has sometimes loose deadlines.
No. There's
Don't
no more loose deadlines. We have an
No more
actual
loose deadline?
deadline.
Okay, cool. Don't save anything for the deadline. Just don't. Like when you get it, like a lecture question. If you're working on if like you're in Nazrin's class or like Jesse's class, because they also have a lecture question that got handed to them today. Like, do it tonight.
Well,
Like,
ours are a
do
little
it like
different. Ours are. If you're in Jesse's class, do the lecture objectives when you do it.
do them now. Like, if you can do them now, do them now. Like, stay up to date on them. Don't let them trail down the road. Like, do whatever you can do now. Like you don't want to let it get behind, because then you're just gonna you're gonna get stuck. Like it's gonna pile up, and then you're gonna have like 191 work or whatever other work you have for whatever other class you're in, and it's just gonna pile up, and you're gonna start feeling like you're drowning. And like this class, like it may be difficult for some of you, but this is one of the classes that if you stay up to date with the work, it makes it so much easier. These lecture questions and lecture objective, whatever Jesse has, the idea of them is that they apply the material from the lecture that you had that actual day. It's not different code than you were expected to already have like been taught. And so you're just implementing stuff you already have. So why not do it on that time? Because if you have struggled doing it, means that you need to review that lecture, means you need to review that material. That's when you go to office hours. Like, please go to office hours. We have a lot of office hours. Like, show up to them. We'll help you. We'll explain topics. And yeah.
Alright, hold on.
Yes,
Yeah,
Logan and I are both in the same year.
Yeah, no, you don't need to assert test cases. So, okay. So, lecture objective wise, right? You might want to wait until Wednesday of next week to start your lecture objectives, because all of them require test cases if you're in Jesse's class. They're due at the end of the end of the learning objective, so that's in like 2.5 more weeks. So if you wait till next week, you'll have all the information to do all of them, and you'll be able to do all of them really quickly. So, yeah.
Yeah, the class is not going to bend you over. Like, if you stay up to date with it, like, oh yeah, like if you take a 3-week homework and you save it for 24 hours before the deadline, and you also are completely behind on your lecture objectives and lecture questions and your 191 assignment, like, yeah, it's gonna bend you over. Like, like, be prepared for that if you procrastinate. But if you don't procrastinate, or if like you only procrastinate, like, okay, here's the deal: if you procrastinate like just a little bit, like just tiny bit, like tiny amount, like don't procrastinate a whole lot, but like it's not gonna be fun when you actually realize how much you procrastinated. But like, you're not gonna die. But like it's like, don't procrastinate. It's just gonna save yourself a lot.
Jacob.
A beautiful fight card.
Yeah,
Oh, Shatter versus Captain Shredderator. Ooh, and we finish off the night with Black Dragon versus Copperhead. Like, yeah, okay, that sounds fun. Yeah. I'm down. That's gonna be great. That's Thursday night. That's tomorrow night. That's fight card for tomorrow night. Yeah, Logan and I watch BattleBots, by the way.
Thursday night. Every Thursday night.
Yeah. Any tips for de-stressing when coding? Have a rubber ducky. Preferably one that squeaks.
Yep.
If it squeaks, it's much more enjoyable. Like, you can just like squeak. Oh, also, Jesse, I'm not. No, that's no. Okay, but oh, have fidget toys. Have something that you can fidget with. So this right here is like a bicycle chain and like 2 gears, and I like spin it like a fidget spinner, but it's more lopsided. I also just like mess around with it, and I'll disassemble it, reassemble it. I keep also this right here, which like, it's like I push it through, and then I can just like, and it just like, it's like bubble wrap. It's fantastic. Like, I have that. I just have like an Xbox 360 controller sitting on my desk. Like, sometimes I play Madden with Logan, sometimes I just fiddle with the joystick. But like, have stuff that like, if you're looking at code but not actually typing the code, like mess around with it with your hands. Like, just like keep your hands busy if like that's who you are and that's what you need to focus. Like, don't feel like the need to like sit on your hands while trying to read documentation.
All right, we've gotten the question 3 times. We should probably answer it. What companies?
Yeah. Okay. What companies have you gotten internships?
I interned.
Logan goes first.
After my freshman year, I interned at Telephonics Corporation on Long Island doing defense contracting. Last summer, due to Ronaville, I was at home, so I got certified in Amazon Web Services as a certified cloud practitioner. And then I'm still looking for. I'm still in hiring processes for some jobs this summer, including Dish, Twitch, and Moog.
Awesome. So, me, after my freshman year, I didn't do an internship. Instead, I did research in the VLSI lab here at UB. specifically doing fingerprint analysis and security stuff. And so I did some deep learning training with that. I did some other stuff. So I've dipped my toes in the water of deep learning and stuff more than but I know how deep that water goes. So I don't like to say that I'm proficient in deep learning or any of that stuff like that people love to do on resumes. I'm not. I've worked in it. And then after my sophomore year, so last year, we were in wonderful Ronaville, but I had gotten a internship with M&T Tech. But M&T Tech, as I'm going to tell you guys, and and all of you listen to me, this is my way to say screw M&T Tech. Specifically, they said that they would commit to our internship. They then said they would commit to it again. And then 2 weeks later, they canceled the entire internship and didn't offer us any options to keep the internship. Instead, they just said, hey, we're going to run this separate thing that's not related to your internship at all. That's called a glorified summer-long hackathon, but it's not your internship, and we're not calling it your internship. And so they killed it entirely and just left us high and dry about 2 weeks before the summer started. So I lost my job for M&T. And then this upcoming summer, I am actually working summer-fall. So I'm working for 6 months at a company called Technic, which works with brushless motors and stuff. It's the type of area that I'm interested in. And
specifically brushless motors. That is exactly what he's interested in, nothing else.
Oh yeah. Well, specifically, it's the idea of interfacing with hardware components. But I'm going to be working here in Rochester. I'm in Rochester currently. This is my house. Welcome to my bedroom. This is my crib. MT Cribs, Jacob edition.
Did you just say
that's
M&T
my signed buff? Yeah, it's the M&T Cribs. Have you ever watched M&T Cribs, Logan?
It's MTV Cribs, you idiot.
Oh, whatever. I don't care. Okay, those are my signed Buffalo Bills cards from the '91 playoffs. But yeah, I'm working at Technic this upcoming summer fall for 6 months. So that's where I'm working.
All right. Tips for getting internships: apply early.
Apply early. Don't do what Logan did and start applying in November or December.
No, I was applying in September.
No, you weren't. That was such a lie.
My Twitch one was during September.
Oh, right, yeah. But then you forgot to do any of your parts when they sent you the quizzes for it?
No, I did the first two. I just haven't done the third yet.
Okay, but you put it off for like a month, Logan.
Yeah, but I did it.
Okay. He put it off for a month, though.
How can you run your program? I got you. You ready?
Okay. If you have an object and you have a main function, you click the green button. So it has to be an object, and it has to have a main function. That main function will get auto-filled by IntelliJ when you start typing MAI, and then you just hit enter. And then boom.
Alright. We've got 8 minutes left. If nobody has any questions, I'll start going back to the bullshit questions from before.
Yep.
Actually, I'll just start with bullshit questions.
We also have 8 minutes left in the review session, by the way, because I want dinner.
That's what I meant, yeah.
Wait, did I eat lunch today? Logan, did I eat lunch today?
I don't think so.
I don't think I did.
I had a bigger breakfast.
I didn't eat breakfast either, buddy.
No, I had a bigger
Well, okay,
breakfast.
so first meal of the day for Jacob, it will be after this review session, so. Don't do that. Don't forget to eat. That's a bad idea. There's no way to turn it on. You have to have an object, and you have to have a main function inside of that object. Can you two be my professors? No, we cannot. We do not have doctorates in CS. And
also,
so
like, we're here. Is this not good enough for you?
Yeah, we're also we're the head TAs of the section. Like, Logan's one of the head TAs because Logan and Lana are head TAs for Jesse, and I'm head TA for Nazarene. Like, we're available. We have office hours. Like,
I had office hours this morning.
If you here's my biggest thing. Professors, TAs, everyone, they all teach material differently. If you don't necessarily like a class, look around in office hours. You might actually like how someone else teaches that material better, and that may help you learn. So like if you feel like when you're paying attention to Jesse or Nazarene, you're drifting off and you can't pay attention, but you come to review sessions and suddenly it clicks for you, then come to review sessions. If listening to Jesse and Nazarene like works for you, and coming to review sessions you're just like, oh my god, these schmucks again. Like, don't come to review session. You don't need to. Find what works for you and where you can learn. Yes, you can watch Twitch later. This is already a VOD. You can see it on our page.
Yeah, if you just click on the thing below, it says CSE.
Type DEF and then MA, and then it should already just give you the option to auto-complete it. So just hit enter.
You can also just type main, and it'll do it too.
Yeah.
You don't even have to write def.
Yeah.
Also, Jacob, I'm not sure if you realize, but we get to see Chomp again.
Oh my god, we get to see Chomp again tonight? Oh,
tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. Let's see, who else? We got, oh, okay, Slammo and Witch Doctor. That's going to be a good fight.
And by good fight, you
Gruff versus...
There's going to be
I mean, Witch Doctor's going to
folks.
fucking whoop Slammo's ass.
For context, so that way nobody can see. Do Jesse and Nazrin typically follow the same content? You have Nazrin for the... Yeah, so they'll follow the same content, but the grading schemes and the homeworks are totally different. Well, mostly.
Yeah, so the learning objective content is the same, the concepts are the same, the execution of the slides are going to be very similar, but the assignments are different. The biggest thing are the assignments are different. So if Jesse or Nazrin starts talking specifically about assignments, that's where it's going to differ a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so we got Gruff versus Extinguisher.
There's going to be so many firefighting jokes in there.
Yeah.
It says you have no license with your UB email. Well,
you need to do the student developer sign up. It's the form that we sent the link for.
Way back.
You just search JetBrains student developer. You should just be like the first thing. Yeah, you just want full screen, Jacob.
Go here.
And just boom,
here.
Free educational license, and then you just sign up for your own account. Here. Like you can just already give it the account that you're already logged in with on JetBrains, and just make sure that it has your UB email. It doesn't automatically happen. You just have to apply for the form. But because it's an at buffalo.edu, it is a recognized email. Okay, so how do I get involved on campus? Being at home sucks. So, Mongo, are you in the Buffalo Niagara area, or are you
just like
anywhere in the state or like world? Realm, it's also free, so just claim it anyway and see what you want on it.
Yeah, things I recommend. Domain is real cool.
Canva, if like Canva's nice if you want to do some graphic stuff.
Yeah,
Azure is fun if you want to mess around with Azure.
Name.com.
Bootstrap stuff. Bootstrap.
There's a lot of free domains you can get.
Yeah.
What are the other
just mess
important
around.
things?
You get cool. GitHub Pro, you get REPL Pro if you want to use REPL for some other stuff. Don't use it for Scala, don't use it for this class. Okay, so Mango, you're in the Buffalo area. A lot of the clubs aren't allowed to meet. Some of the low-risk clubs are allowed to meet, so that's going to be like a varying on there. So like, go through, like, I forget where it is specifically, but UB has a list of all of their clubs. Find a club that you want and see like how they're doing stuff. For at least like a fun club to be a part of that happens. They start recruiting around this time over the next few months, and they happen specifically over the summer to in the fall. Is a club called UB Hacking. Specifically, this is where we get into UB Hacking promo. UB Hacking is a really fun event. I encourage you all to attend it as participants or attend it as a volunteer, or both. Like, figure out what you want to do. But it's a fun event. You should be going to it. Even as the online, it was run fantastically by Logan and his crew. It is a fun and fantastic event. There's also the ACM group that does some hack nights, and their club that's a coding club. Because of UB's size, there's clubs for literally everything. I know a popular one among a lot of the CS people. I'm not into it, but like I know other people are, is like the anime club. And so a bunch of them all like that stuff. But like there's a lot of clubs for practically everything under the under the sun. So like find something you're interested in, go get invited to those Discords. There should be the links on the club pages. So like go. Try it out. See what's in the option. I mean, also, like, if you're in the Buffalo Niagara area, like, here's the thing. If you're comfortable with it, like, that's a big if. If you're comfortable with it, like, study from lecture halls. Like, the law library, it is gorgeous.
Yep.
Like, also,
Davis
like,
Hall.
also, like, just chilling. Like, if you need whiteboards, go to Davis. There's nothing reserved there, and if it's probably empty because nobody's on campus right now, like, there are so many whiteboards. It is fantastic. There's probably even some of Logan's and my, like, expo markers lying around there, and
There's
some other people's
definitely.
expo markers, because we've left expo markers there. So we even had a point where we just, like, left a pack of expos, like, by the whiteboard we always used, because no one would steal them. They just use them. And so then we never needed to, like, remember them because they were always just there waiting for us. But yeah, like, go find what clubs interest you, hang out on campus and, like, the stuff. Like, well, I mean, Capon's gonna be full because it's Capon. Like, people like going to Capon to study. I'm not
Why? I
necessarily
don't know
saying
why,
going.
but
Yeah, like, law library is gorgeous.
if
Like,
you can get in there.
if you can get in there, sometimes they don't let you in. But, like, that's a quiet zone. Like, you cannot talk inside of. You drop a pin in law library and you get kicked out. Like, there's a lot of people at Capon, but Silverman is usually that's the full name of Capon is the Capon Silverman Library.
Yeah.
That's the same library.
All right, we're gonna get going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be back next week. See y'all.
Yep, we'll be back next week, so we'll talk about more stuff and, like, we'll go over the topics that are covered over this past week. So we'll be on test cases, for loops, that other stuff.